Hello and welcome to Diplomatic Insight with Oyebola. On this program, we break down global diplomacy, international relations, and how they shape our world. I am Oyebola Ajiboye. We shall be discussing the role of Nigeria in the African Union, the AU, and how Nigeria's membership of the AU can be harnessed to drive our ambition for a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. Nigeria's foreign policy is that of concentric circles, with good neighborliness with West African states at the core. Next comes the promotion of African integration and support for African unity, the promotion of international cooperation for the consolidation of universal peace and mutual respect among nations, and elimination of discrimination in all its manifestations is a pointer to Nigeria's global outreach. Nigeria has always been a big propounder of multilateral diplomacy.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assumes still more responsibilities. On behalf of my countrymen in Nigeria, I thank you all most sincerely for accepting us as a fellow member in this organization.
From joining the United Nations to becoming a founding member of OAU, now AU, on May 25th, 1963, to playing a pivotal role in the establishment of ECOWAS in May 28th, 1975. It is evident that multilateralism is one of the basic principles of Nigeria's foreign policy. Nigeria, in exhibiting a manifest destiny, has an history of using the instrumentality of the UN to promote peace and development in Africa. Nigeria spearheaded the ending of apartheid in South Africa, campaigned for decolonization in Africa, contributed troops in the UN peacekeeping operations in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Darfur in Congo, Chad, among other peacekeeping missions. Indeed, Nigeria is viewed among some member states of the AU as the giant of Africa. Joining me is Ambassador Sonny Bala, a retired career diplomat. He joined the Ministry of External Affairs, Lagos, in August 1980 and held various offices in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and in Nigerian diplomatic and consular missions in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Ghana, Senegal, and Tunisia. In June 2008, he was appointed Consul General of Nigeria in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. He served as Nigeria's first ambassador to the state of Qatar. He was a former member of Katsina State Executive Council, a former permanent secretary to the Federal Civil Service Commission and Federal Ministry of Health. He is currently an executive director of Savannah Center for Diplomacy, Democracy, and Development. With decades of experience in international diplomacy, he brings valuable insights on Nigeria's evolving role in global politics. Ambassador Sonny Bala, thank you for talking with us. Nigeria is a big name to the AU. There's no doubt about that. How big is Nigeria's to AU members?
So to answer that question, I can say Nigeria is the conscience of the AU, the heart of the AU. If you go back to history, before the AU, we have the OAU. And the activities that led to the establishment or creation of OAU, Nigeria played a very, very strong and powerful force and role. It was the leader of the Monrovia group, because at that time 1960-61, when majority of the African countries gained their independence. Nigeria was among the countries that championed the gradual movement to African unity and development, the Pan-African movement at that time. There were two groups. One group led by Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, and others, Egypt. They are championing the cause of a united Africa, one government for Africa, one united Africa, federation or unity, whatever it is there. It was just one Africa at that time. But in Nigeria, our leaders were very, very meticulous, with foresight and excellence. They championed the cause of gradual unity, gradual unification. They said first, there were many, many other African countries under colonialism at that time. And the few that had gained independence were just struggling to even understand democracy, to even have their institutions of democracy, like party politics, governance, bureaucracy, banking, and so many other things, international affairs, international relations. They were just coming in. So they said, look, the best in let the countries develop on their own, struggle to get the rest of the African countries under colonialism free, and then we can now talk of how we unite. And that was the reason that prevailed in 1963 when the Organization of African Unity was created. So I believe the position taken by Nigeria at that time has proved to be the right thing and the best for Africa. And many years later, in 2000, the time had come for the Africa to become a union. And the Nigerian lawyers, I can remember, they were the ones who drafted the Constitutive Acts. Nigeria contributed immensely in the drafting of the Constitutive Act of the African Union. And then, of course, we are always up to date in our payment of contributions in finance and in supply of military men, personnel, to attend to crisis in Africa, peacekeeping operations under the AU and OAU. So I can say Nigeria is the conscience and the heart of the AU. It is a big, big player, very, very important player.
With all this being said about Nigeria, what is at stake in Nigeria's achieving this goal to be a permanent member of the UN Security Council?
Well, that is a goal, a very desirable goal, and it is realizable, it is achievable. Because 76, 75 years or 80 years, I must say, when the United Nations were created, there were only 4 African countries that were not under colonial rule. All of them, the 150 so, were under colonial rule. So they are not party to the establishment of the United Nations. But they continuously came under the subjugation of the rules and regulations created at that time that governed the operations of the United Nations and its agencies, especially the financial institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, and so on. So time has come now for Africa to have a real say in what affects Africa, in the operations of the organizations. So it is a matter of right, I might say, because Nigeria has all it takes, all the requirements to qualify it as number one African country that deserves to have the permanent seat in the Security Council and with veto power. I know the move has just been get the permanent seat first and then look for veto. In fact, what we are advocating, Savannah Center and some other international NGOs, is the abolition of the veto power itself. Because if you look at it, the General Assembly had the largest number of members. But the Security Council, General Assembly delegated that power to Security Council. And the veto power is being abused. And I don't need to quote any example. Everybody knows that there had been abuse of the veto power. The recent one is, it has always been Israel and in the Middle East and even other areas. So it is, we are proposing, advocating for a reform of the use of the veto. In many ways, there are so many proposals. One is, number one, remove the veto. Let the Security Council be a decision by majority. And that is the best way, because that is democracy. Where you have veto, you are saying you are becoming autocratic. Look at what happened just recently. One country vetoed the actions of the Security Council and the United Nations to prevent the death of 45,000 people. That is catastrophic. That is not the right use of veto. The veto was used unwisely, I might say. But in a situation where you have the Security Council decision and resolutions are arrived at by majority decision, then definitely that is democratic and that is acceptable. But in a situation where one country will just say no and the whole world is doomed to that, it's really very, very unfortunate, to say the least. And at worst, it's murder. So that's so many, the multilateral system does not favor Africa much, does not favor developing countries, Latin America, Asia. So many things that the multilateral system is supposed to work for everybody. And the idea is let each country be a beneficiary of the multilateral system, so that the issue of debt, the issue of climate change, so many other issues, global issues that need to be, approached holistically. But because of the veto power, because of the interests of the North, mostly the South suffer a lot because they don't have the power, they don't have the technology, they don't have the resources. Whereas they are supposed to be equal partners in the global management system.
You have talked about abrogation of veto power. Do you see members of the UN Security Council agreeing with this?
It is possible. And you can see even the United States of America has come out clearly to support Nigeria's membership, permanent seat at the Security Council. It just stops short of saying with veto powers. Now for them to get that window that yes, there is the need to expand the membership, permanent membership, to include Africa and other countries, other continents. It's a big step. 75 years ago, who would ever think of that? it would not be there. But now the realities on the ground have shown that yes, Africa and Asia and so on, they need to be there. The only thing is that the veto power. Let's get there. When we get there, we'll fight, continue to fight for the veto power, the reform of the veto power. Even if it doesn't extend to Africa and so on, but Africa is permanent members, whoever it is, if it is one country or two countries, I know Nigeria is one there, is there. If it is one country, it is Nigeria. If it is two, Nigeria is there. So, and we'll continue to fight for the reform of the entire UN system. There are so many things that are wrong with the system, with the operations of the United Nations organization. So many things. Even if you listen to the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, he has always advocated for the reform. And if you look at his agenda for peace and the other documents, they are all moving towards reform, because these are realities. These are realities that must be taken into consideration in order to have peace. Otherwise, if you don't have that, the purpose of the Organization of African Unity will be defeated. Also, of the United Nations will be defeated. The purpose is to prevent war and to ensure durable peace for development to take place. So if the system is not working towards peace, then the system is not functioning, and we need to address those challenges. So I believe if Nigeria gets to the Security Council as a permanent member, to work towards making the veto extended to us, or at least reforming the system so that the veto does not have is no longer a veto at all. Because as far as I'm concerned, the veto power means that we are not democratic at all.
Ambassador Bankole Adeoye was recently re-elected as the head of Political Affairs, Peace and Security Department in the AU. How relevant is this win for Nigeria?
Well, the Peace and Security Department, I might say, is the most important department of the AU. Because if you look at the purpose, is to show that we have peace, because peace is the foundation of everything. If you go to the community level, if there is no peace, people will not have development at all. It's the same thing globally. If the countries are at war, then there is no progress. No progress, because people will be killed, work will stop, there will be no production, industry will close, trade will stop, everything. The entire life system of the people will be distorted. So peace and security is very, very important. It's a very, very important arm and role and function of the African Union. Although there are many things to that, but I believe it's a very, very important position. And that's why in Nigeria, we thank President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for weighing in to see that Ambassador Bankole, who is eminently qualified for that position. He's eminently qualified for that position. I repeat, eminently qualified, because he has been in the system for many, many years, and he is an icon. He is an authority. Even all those who are at the AU in Addis Ababa, they know him very well. That was why the voting was kind of smooth, I must say. And so it's a very, very important position, and Nigeria should be grateful and congratulate our president, and congratulate Nigeria for this appointment or election of Ambassador Bankole Adeoye.
In one sentence, Your Excellency, can you tell us how achievable this goal for Nigeria in becoming a permanent member of the UN Security Council?
Well, if you say in one sentence, you're not being fair to me. But I can say it in one sentence. Because Nigeria is the only country in Africa that has all it takes to occupy the position of permanency in respect or on behalf of Africa. That is one sentence. It has all it takes. There is nothing that is missing. All requirements that you want that qualifies America, that qualifies UK, that qualifies France, that qualifies Japan and China, all of them. Nigeria has those qualities, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Excellency.
Thank you very much.
On behalf of our listeners, I will say thank you indeed.
Thank you so much.
Will Nigeria surmount her domestic woes to take a rightful place on the global stage? That's all for today on Diplomatic Insight with Oyebola. Thank you for watching and see you next week for another interesting episode. My name is Oyebola Ajiboye. Stay informed.